Welcome to the debate. Our focus today is on a really remarkable strategy from a company called ALAND. They're connecting UAE real estate developers with European high net worth investors. And they're doing it through these exclusive, strategically located events in financial capitals like, Vienna, Zurich, and Berlin. We're talking about high stakes commerce here. Properties often run between a quarter million and maybe 700,000 euros. Their unique selling proposition, what they call offline pixel marketing, is this seamless integration of a high-touch physical event with a very rapid tech-driven follow-up system. The result? Conversion rates of 5 to 10% within just 45 days, which in this segment is, well, it's extraordinary. So the central question for us is, where does the primary driving force of this success really lie? Is it in the exclusivity and the sheer prestige of the physical event architecture? Or is it in the disciplined, scalable efficiency of their digital conversion workflow? I'm going to argue that the digital infrastructure and the post-event momentum management are the key success factors here.
And I'll be coming at it from a different perspective. While I agree the 72-hour sprint and the digital tools are absolutely essential for, let's say, velocity and processing, I think they're useless unless the inputs, the leads themselves, are pre-qualified and brought to a psychological tipping point. And that's something I believe is only achievable through rigorous physical control. I'm going to contend that the exclusivity, the pre-screening, and that high-signal environment inherent in the curated event are, well, they're irreplaceable for generating decision makers with both the means and the immediate intent to purchase. This is a highly sophisticated, controlled, physical access model that just leverages digital tools for processing. It's not a digital funnel that simply uses an event for lead generation.
I see why you think that, focusing on the quality of that initial connection. But let me offer a different perspective. The innovation isn't the event itself. Exclusive developer dinners have been happening forever. The real genius lies in the systematic, data-driven follow-through that's designed specifically to avoid what we all know as momentum decay. Real estate momentum is incredibly fragile. The material is explicit about this. ALAND's entire conversion system is engineered to drive the process all the way to contract, not just attendance. And this obsession with the outcome is defined by that highly disciplined 72-hour conversion sprint. This kind of speed is only possible because of the seamless, real-time integration of offline action into the digital sphere. When an attendee checks in with a QR code, that link instantly establishes a digital footprint. It triggers sophisticated pixel tracking across Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, and initiates personalized retargeting campaigns before the guest has even left the building. The lead is then hit with a rapid, multi-channel nurturing sequence through WhatsApp, Telegram, email, providing tailored value adds like legal checklists and banking solutions. The digital system is the engine that converts that initial, fragile interest into a secured contract. It just overwhelms the lead with speed and targeted relevance.
That's a compelling explanation of the system's efficiency, I'll grant you that. But you are putting the cart before the horse. The reason the 72-hour sprint works at all is entirely due to the extreme quality of the leads it processes. A digital system processing, say, 5,000 cold leads through that same sprint would yield, what, near zero conversions? But here, the input is generated by a very rigorous physical architecture. The material clearly defines this operation as a controlled market access system, and it stresses this is not an exhibition. The whole foundation of that 5 to 10% success rate is what they call audience engineering. We're talking about pre-screening and inviting only highly specific targets, family offices, acquisition groups, and qualified end buyers who meet a strict qualification matrix. This matrix defines who is included and, crucially, who is excluded. The event structure itself is intentionally meeting first, optimized for one-on-one discussions, immediate decisions, and protecting the developer's pricing and allocation rules. None of that gravity, none of that commitment is possible without a pre-vetted, high-signal, in-person environment set in the very financial hubs these investors operate from, Zurich, Vienna. The physical environment forces a commitment. The digital system is just there to record and execute it.
I think we have to spend a bit more time on the source of credibility here because that feels like the true battleground. You're arguing the initial handshake established by that physical setting is the key. But if we're talking about a six-figure real estate deal, the moment that investor walks away from the event, doubt starts to creep in.
Exactly. And that doubt is minimized by the sheer gravity of the event itself. The physical, exclusive setting provides an essential credibility boost. When developers are showcasing properties worth up to 700,000 euros, off-plan, overseas, they're asking for a huge leap of faith. That faith is established by placing the event in a prestigious European capital, using high-end physical displays, and leveraging key figures, like Dr. Pooyan Ghamari, the Swiss economist. His presence validates the investment in a way a digital document just can't. The in-person immersion, the AR and VR model integration, the tactile brochures, that's what secures the initial decision to place a deposit. The physical environment acts as a kind of crucible, concentrating all that decision-making energy.
I agree the event creates initial trust, but I'm just not convinced that this initial, fragile trust is the real conversion driver. Trust is only valuable if it's actionable, and ALAND structures their system so that trust is sustained and ultimately activated digitally. Think about the complexity involved. If the only value was that initial prestige, the conversion rates would look more like, 0.5%. The high rates are achieved because the investor knows they aren't just buying property, they're entering an integrated digital ecosystem, listing plus sales plus legal plus visa. The trust from the offline event is immediately capitalized on by connecting them via the platform to these really comprehensive follow-up services.
Such as?
Well, the Golden Visa Legal Pack. And this isn't just a brochure, it's a high-value add-on that costs between 5,000 and 10,000 euros per buyer. They are also immediately connected to trusted legal offices like GH Legal. This complete digital and legal framework, which manages every single point of friction from money transfers to visa applications, is structured and delivered through that digital follow-up sprint. So yes, the physical event confirms the quality of the property, but the digital ecosystem dismantles all the logistical hurdles, and that is what sustains the conversion. The physical event opens the door, I'll give you that. But the digital structure is what converts that initial intent into a transaction and extracts the maximum economic value through these add-ons.
But that entire process relies on the developer being willing to pay the initial costs and commit their high-value sales team for the whole event. We have to look closely at the cost of acquiring that high-signal lead in the first place.
Okay, let's transition then. Let's move from credibility to the core mechanics of performance. Lead quality versus conversion velocity. While I'll concede that audience engineering ensures a high-quality pool of people, the conversion rate itself is a function of digital velocity. High-quality inputs can still decay if the process is slow. The speed to conversion, 45 days, is achieved because iHowLand doesn't rely on passive data. They track and target attendees based on their actual behavioral signals captured during the event.
And what does that look like in practice? I mean, behavior at an event is complex.
It's hyper-specific. We know from the material that if a visitor browses property brochures on the tablets they provide at the venue, that single action instantly triggers a pixel or tag specific to that property or development phase. Now, this is radically more precise than just knowing someone RSVP'd. It's real-time intent data. This allows for hyper-customized retargeting ads and personalized follow-up scripts deployed across LinkedIn, Instagram, Google. This level of personalized velocity, driven by that real-time behavioral data, minimizes the sales cycle dramatically. And that's the reason you see 5 to 10% conversion rates, not 1 or 2. The data structure accelerates the entire sales process.
I agree the real-time behavioral data is sophisticated, but let's not overlook the profound operational costs and constraints that the physical necessity imposes on the developers. These are constraints that I think ultimately prove the event is the bottleneck, and therefore the conversion engine. The entire system requires significant sponsor requirements. A developer can only participate if they commit their specialized sales team for intensive one-to-one negotiations during the event and throughout that 72-hour sprint. And what's more, the developer has to pre-establish and control their allocation rules, pricing rules, and disclosure language before the invitation system even starts.
And why is that a point for the physical model? That just sounds like good organization to me.
Because that level of mandated commitment, mandating the presence of high-level sales directors, presetting allocation, it only makes sense if the event provides leads of such high intent that they are ready to discuss specific, protected inventory right then and there. The event forces a high-signal negotiation, which requires physical presence to manage the scarcity and the pricing narrative. A digital funnel alone can't require a sales director to drop everything for a week to engage in one-on-one negotiations. This necessity for customized negotiation fundamentally means the physical environment is the conversion engine. The digital tools are simply the efficient tracking mechanism for locking down a reservation that was probably verbally secured face-to-face.
But if the input is so precious, why risk losing them in the moment? A physical negotiation can fail. The digital system, with its disciplined 72-hour sprint, is the safeguard against that failure. It standardizes the follow-up, ensuring that even if the initial negotiation is, inconclusive, the lead is immediately pushed down the track toward a contract via data and value adds. The digital structure makes the whole thing scalable and repeatable.
But the event is fundamentally not scalable in the way a digital campaign is. And that non-scalability is exactly what the developer is buying. To prove this, let's just look at the financial structure because money always reveals the core value. The developer pays a hefty flat fee for the marketing and event management, somewhere between 15 and 25,000 euros per event.
That's a large infrastructure fee, I grant you that.
It's a massive, guaranteed revenue stream for ALAND. This fee covers the high cost of physical execution. Securing the prestigious venue, meticulous branding, rigorous guest list management, and the operational discipline you need to pull off an event in downtown Zurich. This guaranteed revenue signifies that the complexity and intrinsic value of the physical control and the guaranteed access to these pre-vetted attendees represent the core service being sold. Developers pay that non-refundable upfront cost precisely because the physical architecture guarantees a concentrated, high-quality sales environment. It's an insurance policy on lead quality.
I come at the financial structure from a completely different direction. While that flat fee ensures operational coverage, the stage, the catering, the security, the true profitability model is fundamentally performance-based and driven by the digital conversion results. ALAND earns a significant 3 to 5% commission on sales, and critically, they take a 40 to 60% split on those high-value Golden Visa legal add-ons we discussed.
That's where the high margin is, absolutely.
Precisely. So, if ALAND's conversion system was weak, or if the digital follow-up failed to secure those lucrative, high-margin legal packages, those 5 to 10,000 euro add-ons, the whole business model would collapse into marginal profitability. It would just be relying on that moderate flat fee. The reliance on performance-driven commission and these high-margin add-ons strongly indicates that the conversion system, the digital and legal follow-up structure that manages that post-event momentum, is the actual profitable economic driver. Developers don't pay 25,000 euros for a cocktail party. They pay it because they are effectively buying a highly effective, integrated digital sales closing machine.
But couldn't we argue that's just leveraging the intent that was already generated? To push back on your financial point, could ALAND survive without that guaranteed flat fee? The execution risk for a high-profile, exclusive event is immense. The flat fee insulates them from failure on the physical side. It guarantees the staging of the high-signal event. If they just relied on commissions from leads generated through a purely digital funnel, the conversion rate, even with the best sprint, would be lower, the commissions less predictable. The developer would have less trust in the initial investment. The flat fee is proof that the physical access is the product, and the commission is just the upside from the processing speed.
The flat fee gets you the venue and the guest list. But the digital execution is what guarantees the commission. Consider the developer's perspective. What they're purchasing is a streamlined sales cycle, not just a chance to meet people. If ALAND's digital follow-up was poor, that 45-day cycle would stretch to 90 or 120 days, tying up inventory and sales resources. The velocity provided by the pixel tracking and the integrated legal documents is the economic value they're paying for. It's the platform that takes these high-intent leads and processes them at machine speed,
which is a fundamentally digital accomplishment.
But the high requirements placed on the sponsor before the event, controlling pricing, allocation, requiring a sales director's presence, those are not features of a standard digital platform. They are prerequisites for a high-signal negotiation environment that can only be established in a physically controlled setting. If a lead simply walks away from that physical meeting in Vienna, the digital follow-up only works because that lead experienced the exclusivity, felt the gravity of the developer's commitment, and understands they're being offered protected, high-value inventory.
And yet, if that lead simply walks away and is never re-engaged with personalized digital documents, legal clarity, and custom retargeting ads, that initial intent collapses within days. The 72-hour sprint, driven entirely by digital outreach and sophisticated tracking, is the mechanism that ensures the physical investment of 25,000 euros and the developer's time actually pays off. It's the bridge over that massive gap between interest and contract.
And if the digital campaign targeted leads who hadn't physically shown up, felt that exclusivity, and met the developer face-to-face in a high-prestige venue, that same digital system would generate a fraction of the 5 to 10% conversion rate. The gravity of the physical environment generates the intent. The digital system merely optimizes the closure.
This entire discussion, I think, really underscores the critical integration ALAND has achieved, moving way beyond traditional marketing distinctions. However, my position remains that the high conversion rates are fundamentally a triumph of digital discipline. The ALAND model demonstrates the critical importance of integrating sophisticated technology, specifically pixel tracking and a disciplined, data-informed 72-hour digital sprint, to maximize the latent value generated from any high-quality source. The system ensures the substantial investment in the physical event is fully capitalized upon through scalable, data-driven nurturing. The difference between a typical 1% real estate conversion and ALAND's 10% is found squarely in the velocity and precision of that digital infrastructure.
While the digital tools provide necessary velocity, the evidence shows that the success is predicated on what the material itself terms a controlled market access system. Without the strategic, exclusive, and physically curated process of audience engineering that rigorously filters participants and protects the developer's allocation rules, the digital tools would simply be optimizing poor leads. For high-value, high-risk overseas real estate, the psychological barrier of commitment, it demands the gravity of an in-person environment. The physical event is the necessary, non-scalable crucible that drives the level of initial commitment required for a six-figure contract.
What we have seen, though, is that ALAND forces a deep integration.
It's a fascinating study in economic drivers, absolutely. The physical event serves as the high-cost, non-scalable investment in trust and quality assurance,
while the digital follow-up system serves as the scalable, high-margin, performance-based profit engine that harvests that trust. I think further exploration of the source material reveals a continuous, symbiotic feedback loop between the exclusivity established by the physical events and the precise behavioral data captured by the digital platform. It really illuminates that in high-value commerce, the most successful frameworks elegantly challenge those old distinctions between offline and online sales drivers.